Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Claire Brown. I am the Senior Campaign Manager here at Birchal. We are the equity crowdfunding platform that allows everyday Australians to invest in the brands they love. I'm incredibly excited today to be joined by the Australian Honey Ventures, the incredible team. I'm joined today by Jay and Mark, who I'll let introduce themselves in a little second, and we can talk all about the amazing things that we're going to cover today. I'd like to kick off today's session with an acknowledgement of country, because I think it is really important to acknowledge where we are in Australia and whose sovereign lands we're on as we conduct our business. So I'm acknowledging the elders of the Wurundjeri nation from where I am in the Kulin nation of Melbourne, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And I know that Jay and Mark are tuning in from different parts of Australia as well, which is really, really exciting. So really, what are we going to talk about in today's session? So today's session, personally, I didn't know a huge amount about honey before I started working with Jay and her incredible team. But listening to these conversations and hearing about the fantastic success that Australian Honey Ventures has had since their first capital raise, I'm hearing that there is a hive of activity in the Middle East market in particular. And honey, especially Australian honey, is really hitting the global stage in a massive way. So I'm going to pass it over to Jay and to Mark to introduce themselves and their roles and what they do at Australian Honey Ventures. We've got some fantastic questions to ask them to learn a little bit more about this opportunity. And if you have any questions at all during the webinar, we will have questions at the end in about 20 to 25 minutes time. So please use the Q&A box down the bottom, chuck in your question, and we will get around to answering them at the end. So Jay and Mark, over to you. Thank you again so much for your time today, and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do at AHV.
Thank you, Claire. Look, this is my first webinar. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And look, I'm assuming this isn't the first time everyone has seen my ugly face on the computer screen or on the phone. I am Jay Curtin, and I am the founding director of Australian Honey Ventures. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a girl from the bush and did school on the air when I was young, because I grew up in very remote parts of Western Australia. So I'm deeply rooted by regional Australia and giving people a fair go. Over to you, Mark.
All right, thank you so much. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not 100% Australian. So I'm originally from Jordan. I came to Australia about 9 years ago. Jordan is a country in the Middle East. So most of my experience was mainly in Middle East, in the FMCG retail industry. I have master's degree in marketing, and I've been joined Real Good Honey, or AHV in the last 3 months now, I think, and we've representing the company in the Middle East market. Yeah,
fantastic.
Awesome.
Now, I know that the majority of people watching today probably know who AHV is, but a really quick recap, Jay, for you. AHV, who are you and what inspired you to start?
Yeah, okay. Look, I haven't told too many people this story, but I myself, as an entrepreneur, I love hearing how things started off. You know, what was the initial idea that got things going? About 3 to 3.5 years ago, I had an idea. Wouldn't it be great if we could start a platform like an eBay for honey, where beekeepers could sell their honey and buyers can come and buy it? So a two-sided marketplace. But look, you know, whilst we went down that rabbit hole, we realized very quickly that is not going to work. One issue is you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of different brands of Australian honey on this one platform. Nothing will stand out. Number two, large commercial suppliers aren't honey packers. So they had no way to process and pack their stuff. And thirdly, we can all see that this industry could do with a helping hand from, you know, some epic marketing, and beekeepers are not marketers. So we very quickly realized this eBay of honey idea that we had needed to actually evolve into, I suppose, have all of the bells and whistles and same services as a honey packer, like a traditional honey packer that you see out there now. But I didn't want to be a traditional honey packer, because I see too many times I've seen the beekeepers not getting their fair share from the packers. I see too much price setting in the industry. So it was quite a challenge. How do we be different but still provide all the same services as a honey packer, and and give back to those beekeepers. So we've ended up morphing into a profit sharing organization. We've got an absolute winning business model. There's nothing like it on the market. So ultimately, we buy honey from beekeepers. We buy honey for upfront prices that are more competitive than anything else around. And then we open our books to beekeepers and we give them a cut. So we give them a cut of our profits. So our net profits after we take out our marketing and our packing fee, then beekeepers will get a 20% cut of those profits. So the effect that we're able to have is, in some cases and some types of honey, we're able to triple beekeeper revenue. And there's nothing like that happening in the industry at the moment. So yeah, I suppose in summary, a honey packer with a cooperative feel, but a private structure that everyday Australians and beekeepers can get involved in, ride that wave with us and make sure that we're pumping more money back into the economy and helping small business.
That is fantastic. And, it is really taking off overseas. I know you've got another brand within Australian Honey Ventures called Be Well, which has had incredible traction in the Asian marketplace. I know we're here to talk about the Middle East and the exciting opportunities that are happening over there, which is why we've got Mark on the call as well. But before we hop into the Middle East and how fantastic it's been over there, I really interested to know a little bit more about the traction for Australian Honey Ventures today. You've had this great model. You started up. You had an incredibly successful crowdfunding raise last year, and you've been hitting milestones and goals from there. Just a quick recap and tell us a bit more about how successful you've been to date and now. And I think that's a really nice segue into, the Middle East.
Yeah, look, it might look really positive and shiny from a marketing perspective. Wow, look at this company doing great things. And I'm really glad to see we're having significant traction now. But let me tell you, it has been tough. It's been really, really tough. Considering, think about it like this. We were a startup company. We chose to enter China. And anyone will tell you entering China is tough. It's hard and people will just stay away from it because it's so difficult. We geared up. It took us about 12, 14 months to get ready for China. And that includes getting all of our certification and everything all ready. We did our first sale. I think our first sale was about, $60,000. And then they went to reorder and the trade wars hit. So we had great traction. We had great response. But in terms of reorders and so on, that actually became quite challenging because China didn't want to work with Australia anymore. So we were in a position where I said, right, okay, unfortunately, we picked China. We didn't know 2 years ago that this was going to happen. We need to diversify. And like I said, it took us 12 to 14 months of doing the dance with China. We couldn't turn around the next day and just say, hey, we're going to be in the Middle East. So we knew that in order to pivot, it was another probably 12-month feat before we could get even close to getting a sale in the Middle East. We looked at our brand, which was designed purely for China. When you look at it, I don't actually have one here with me, but when you look at it, it looks Asian. There is something, but that's the purpose. That's why we built that brand. But unfortunately, the reality of it was that particular brand doesn't look right on a Western shopping shelf. So we did some trials we saw on the shelf. No one really wanted to go to that brand. So we thought, right, if we are going to gravitate and diversify into more Western countries, we need a new brand because this one just won't fly. So China's been quite slow given everything that's happening over there, despite the fact that we do have Tmall. So we've got a presence on the globe's biggest e-commerce platform. But we're starting to direct our cash and investment and energy into our new brand because it's having huge traction. So we knew that we needed a sophisticated, luxurious packaging concept and brand, in whole. So we've engaged the Honey Badger, Nick Cummins, to come on board to help us really grow our Australian following. Because we know that when somebody in the Middle East or somebody in America picks up that jar of honey, which retails on pharmacy shelves for $188, they're going to jump onto our social channels. And if we're not a success in our own country, we're not a big brand in our own country, we lose that credibility. So we've engaged the Honey Badger to come on to help us grow that presence, which should start to happen this week. So long story short, our AHV Be Well brand is quiet, but are we pumping a lot of money into making that bigger? No, it's going into real good honey. The traction that we've spent the last 6 months designing all the packaging, the molds. So the injection mold to get our jar and our bottles, squeezy bottles done, we've spent about 40,000 on the injection molds alone. They have taken 3.5 months. So from our last capital raise, there's been 7 or so months. But the first lot of sample jars, did not touch down in Perth until the 13th of December. Pretty much those jars landed, we filled them with honey, we filled our sachets with honey, we shipped them off, didn't we, Mark, to the Middle East, and literally they land, they taste it and go, let's contract. So I am actually not prepared. We have to learn to crawl, but we don't have time to crawl, because as soon as people taste this honey, it's bang. And then Mark rings me, you need to send more samples, more people are interested and more people. And so our brand, Real Good Honey, which is our luxurious, more westernized, very sustainable brand, just seems to be skyrocketing. And when we all look at, the story of TikTok and Musically is pretty much TikTok, but didn't really fly. They've pulled it off. They rebranded and launched as TikTok, and off it's gone. So it's been really interesting to see how one brand is succeeding far more than the other brand. And it certainly does help having someone like Mark at the realm of the sales in the Middle East to really make those significant connections. So I think now Mark will touch on it a little bit more. We've contracted, we've got a contract with one of the biggest retail giants in the UAE, and that is looking at a 3-year fixed contract term. We've also got a 5-year contract in Kuwait. They've actually placed their first order, despite the fact we still don't even have the jars. The secret is still not here. So that's how keen they are. And it looks like it's very promising, Mark, with Saudi Arabia, who Mark's had his 3rd meeting, and they've indicated, look, we're keen to progress to marketing plans, forecasting, and so on. So that will make the 3rd Middle East country we've landed in a matter of 6 weeks. And Qatar now are also interested, with samples having been sent last week, or earlier this week. And if their past is anything to go on, these guys will receive them, try it, and then say, let's do a deal. And also got the USA. So I got an email 2 days ago from a US distributor who wants to stock our product in America. And I'm that busy, I haven't even got back to him yet. So, and also then there's Woolworths for our table honey range. They're very interested, and we've done a range review. We are now, we've had more meetings since the range review, and we're just trying to nut out the pricing. So we can't say the fat lady's singing, but we're very close. So there's a lot happening for that one. Yeah.
And Mark, I'm really interested to know from you, I mean, off the back of all that and talking about this expansion into the Middle East, I'm really curious to know a little bit more about like the value of honey over there and why it is such, because I mean, I think a lot of Australian consumers, we see honey on the shelves and it might be retailing for $8, and then we're hearing these incredible stories of honey retailing in pharmacies for $188 a jar. Really interested to know from you a little bit more about honey and its status as a symbol and as a product over in the Middle East, and also, as Jay said, a little bit more about these partnerships that have been secured and any more information on them.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me start to explain first that every time I say MENA, it means Middle East and North Africa. That's a term. So in MENA region, just to give you an idea, in 2020, the sales of honey was about 935 million USD dollars. Okay. And it's expected to grow up to 1.1 billion by 2025. That's all the type of honeys. Now, if we come to the Manuka specifically, it's in 2020 it was about 16 million, and it's expected to grow up to the 22 millions by the next 4 years. Now, just in COVID, in 2020, the sales of Manuka was almost tripled in comparison with the previous year. Considering the medicinal side of it and also the reputations on different levels. Now, in Middle East and North Africa, the population of this area is about 580 million. Okay, people. Now they are broken into mainly three categories: North Africa, GCC countries, and what we call Sham countries, which Jordan, Syria, Iraq, one was a part of it. What we have strategically done is mainly we focused on the GCC countries, which are mainly less in population but high in purchasing power. And so that's just to give you a quick idea. Now, why honey is very important. Now there is three parts for it. Historical, which mainly honey being known many years like ago is to be a very good way of healing, regardless if it was like skin or healing guts and stuff like that. The second part of it is mainly religion. So there is actually a full chapter in Quran for Muslims. It's just called the bees, and it just talk about the benefit of bees and how God created the bees just to help people and so on. So there is a religion part of it. And the third part is the medicinal beliefs on surrounding that space. What we have achieved is mainly because the Real Good Honey is now offering three different flavors or types of honey, mainly the Jara, the black pot, and the red gum. We went tackling, and they have a very high TA, total activities. I think maybe Jay can explain that in a second. We went to say, you know what, and look, Manuka is been in the market for over 10 years now, and it's very well known in there to be a medicinal honey. So we kind of approach them through that, saying we have something tastes better than Manuka. It's Australian. It's does all the job, and it's mainly even better. We went with that both, and on the shelf price, it's going to be about 20 to 30% less expensive than Manuka. And the packaging, the great work that Jay did with prestigiable, show off is a big thing also in that region. So people likes to see something when they pay for it to be prestigious, especially in GCC. You might find that, for example, Ferrari, Lamborghini, things like that, big portion of their sales in that region. So we tackled on this part. We tackled on the religion part. We tackled on the benefits part in comparison with Manuka, and we have managed to get some wins. Now in GCC specifically, as we have strategically started with this region, or this part of the region, I would say, Saudi Arabia has about 37 million people, then UAE about 10 million, Kuwait is about 4.5 million. We started with approaching the big companies and saying, you know what, the big distributors, you know what, this brand is going to be the new era of Manuka honey. It's going to be much better perceived, and the samples have confirmed that for them. That's why it was mainly an easy process to get the first win, following the second, and then hopefully the next couple of days with Saudi Arabia. Did I answer everything?
I mean, it's a really good overview, I think, of why honey is so important, and the size of the market opportunity over there, I think, is absolutely fantastic. Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add to that about the partnerships in the Middle East and Australian Honey Ventures entry into that market?
Yeah, look, I think from a strategic point of view, it's about having a look at what the current product marketing, product offering is in those markets. And New Zealand has done a fantastic job marketing Manuka. And if anything, it's made it a lot easier for companies like Australian Honey Ventures coming in, because they've desensitized consumers to the high price of honey. One of the things that has been resonating with us from all of the Middle East companies that are contracting with us is they are so happy that there is another medicinal honey option on the market that tastes so much better than Manuka. So one of the things that I've been working on, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. But one of the most important things that we needed to try and tackle in order to, I suppose, ensure the company's success is to make sure that all of our honeys are treated fairly and they're priced the same. And I was on a podcast a week or so ago, and I say, and some people have probably heard me say this before, but if my child is sick and I go to the chemist and I get Nurofen, I say, I want some Nurofen. And the pharmacist says, would you like that in orange, strawberry, or vanilla? And I said, well, what's the difference? He said that the price is the same. The strength is the same. It is simply a choice of flavor. So I've turned around to the honey industry and said, why do we treat our honeys any differently? If you've got 2 or 3 different varieties of honey and they're the same strength, why is one so cheap and the other one is so high? Why can't we sort of do this and bring them onto that level playing field and say we're a honey company that commands pricing based on TA around medicinal strength rather than variety? Because what that does is it opens the company up to a larger volume of honey that we can sell, and it also it gives the I suppose the validation that we've got amazing products here. So we are the first company that I'm aware of that has pioneered a pay per TA pricing strategy. And accordingly, we offer a pay per pricing strategy to beekeepers as well. So when they bring their honey to us, it doesn't matter if it's red gum, doesn't matter if it's blackbud or jarrah. Whereas historically, the red gum and the blackbud has been, considered not as good. But really, that's just an Australian flavour preference. It's never actually been trialled in those other countries. So the fact that we have been able to influence and convince buyers in these countries who love medicinal honey to contract on a pay per TA strategy is landmark. It's a huge turning point for this country. So getting back to the flavour, what the feedback is we are so, because people don't really like the taste of Manuka. It's got a bit of it's sweet, but it's a bit of a strange tasting product, but they eat it, don't they, Mark? Because they know it's good for them and they think it's the best. So the fact that we're now delivering like TA medicinal honeys that are the same strength and in a lot of cases even stronger than what Manuka is offering on the market at the moment, and it comes in all different flavors, and the flavor and the texture is being received and is so much better, apparently. I know that's very subjective, but that's the feedback we're getting. It's a no-brainer. So it's going to sit alongside Manuka on the shelf, but Manuka can only provide the one, and the texture generally is all the same, whereas, we've got a whole different product offering, and it's going to be priced slightly cheaper than Manuka on the shelf. So we'll compete on price. We're competing on strength, far more powerful option, and also flavour.
It's really interesting that you're marketing medicinal honey based on strength. And as you said, that's a really unique thing that Australian Honey Ventures is doing, as opposed to other brands that are marketing purely on taste and purely on, the strength of the provenance of the honey itself. But that's not the only unique thing that Australian Honey Ventures does. As you mentioned earlier in today's session, you're talking about the beekeeper profit sharing model and how that works. And I'm really interested with all these fantastic orders going into places like the Middle East. How do you intend to keep the supply up through the beekeepers? And do you have any sort of comments or thoughts on that?
Yeah, so look, supply is really important. And when I started this business, I was actually, before I'd even met Stephen Fuster, I was talking to small to medium beekeepers, and Stephen Fuster approached me and said, look, why are you only looking at small to medium beekeepers? He said, commercial beekeepers need help too. And so I started talking to a few more commercial beekeepers, and they pretty much said, if you can get this up off the ground, we would love to work with a company like AHV. So in order to, I suppose, convince middle or any buyer, so whether it be the US, whether it be Woolworths, whether it be China, we need to be able to, I suppose, demonstrate to these buyers that we have secured supply. So to properly secure supply is literally paying money to secure everyone's honey. And I'm talking millions of dollars to give out to these beekeepers so they don't sell their honey to somebody else. And as a startup, you don't have that. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Unless you're cashed up, which is why we're doing this capital raise, second one, you've got to manage on whatever you've got in store now to be able to get that traction, to justify the capital raise, to flush yourself with cash. So then you can start sharing the love and saying, okay, Joe Blow will buy this honey from you. You know, Peter will buy some honey from you. But in order for the company to share that love and buy from more beekeepers, we need the cash. We need that cash flow to be able to pay people honey, because what they'll turn around and say to us, Claire, is, well, okay, we'll save our honey, we'll put it aside for you, but when are we going to get paid? And if we say we've got to wait 9 months for a sale, these guys need to put food on their table. So you've got to give them something, right? And there is a huge cost involved in securing that supply. But when we set this business up, we knew that he who has supply is king. So we knew we had to come at this in a way that gave beekeepers a greater return on their honey. To give you an idea, the current, well, not the current, but $4.80 was historically what people would get for a black butt honey, because no one had ever marketed it as a medicinal honey, or really even done much testing around it, because it was all jarrah. So now a beekeeper, if I give you an example, let's say the contract price that we've secured in the UAE. So we sell a whole sale price. Let's just take the black butt, for example, a TA35 jar, 250 grams. We sell that for $20.42 wholesale. So that's an $82 a kilo rate if we multiply it by 4 to get that kilo rate. So that $20.42 jar, we sell that to a distributor, multiple distributors, and they are putting it on their shelf in their pharmacies for $188. So we're not the ones getting all the profit, they are, but we're making a real tidy profit ourselves on, you know, that $20 a jar, that $80 a kilo amount. So let's go back to the calculation and an example, and this is a true life example. So if we get $80 a kilo for black butt, we pay, for a TA35 strength, we pay an upfront amount of $24 a kilo for our black butt. And beekeepers, look, the going rate, I'm not sure if you go to one of the big packers, they might sell it for, you know, they might pay you $4.80 or $5 a kilo because they have no market for it. And it's not, you know, they're not chasing the medicinal honey. So, or you can take it to us and we'll pay you upfront $24 a kilo. And then once we take out, so of that $80, you take out the $24 a kilo that they've already been paid upfront. We take out a packing rate, we take out a marketing rate, and whatever's left over, let's say it's $30, beekeepers will then get a cut, a 20% cut of that profit. So it means that they've taken home $24, and based on an $80 a kilo or $82 a kilo sale rate, they could get around $6 a kilo bonus off what their honey has sold for. So there's an upfront component and a bonus based on the wholesale price. So the higher we drive that price up, the higher the bonus is going to be for the beekeepers. So it means that they're taking home about $30 a kilo for honey that they could have got $5 a kilo for elsewhere. And I understand there's been a bit of chitter chatter, beekeepers, oh, well, this isn't going to benefit all beekeepers because not everyone produces, medicinal honey. And that's the case, but that's a problem I can't fix. For me, my number one, well, there's a couple of main goals for this business. Number one is to get that global validation that we have got powerful, premium, and potentially the world's best medicinal honey, and validate that on a price point. That is the number one goal, and very important to lifting the status and the GDP of the Australian honey industry. It's my number one goal. The next thing that we focus on doing is how do we put more money back into beekeeper businesses so they can buy a new truck, put on new people. And the only way we do that is, yes, we need to find those lucrative markets, and then we need to be honourable, good people and share those profits, share the love, and say, well, we've secured these big markets. Here you go, you can have a chunk of that. So it was about coming up with a business model that once we'd validated, that we have this medicinal honey, we found these lucrative buying commitments. We then needed a model that was going to make sure that they got a better return. So, which is the profit sharing model we have. And then we knew that we couldn't achieve those three things unless we raise capital. So in order for us to build these brands, and building an epic brand is very important for us, because if we build the most successful brand in Australia, that's working in beekeeper interest, because it's going to ensure that we have continued repeat repurchase. So it means that our USA, our Middle East, they keep coming back to buy more, and it's a circle. So if we can get that repeat purchase, because our brand is so epic, so strong, and so differentiated from anything else in the world market, what that is doing is ensuring that we can offer beekeepers a continual a supplier opportunity, which means that they can manage their cash flow through their business, because AHV is not ringing once every 6 months saying, oh, can I have a little bit of honey, or a little bit now, because we've got that many sales, because our brand is so successful, which is Real Good Honey, that we're regularly buying honey from them. So we can't achieve all of that without raising capital. So the fourth goal is to provide a opportunity for shareholders, with some really good upside in it. And anybody savvy enough in the investor world, before investing in this company, God, I hope that you have all jumped on the internet and you've done your own due diligence on the honey industry and seeing what has happened, the history behind the rise of the Manuka industry. We are at the start of that. Well, we've started to go up, but we've got a long way to go. There is a lot of upside in this industry if we compare the opportunity Australia has with the thousands of tons of medicinal honey produced here. If we do what New Zealand have done, some of those companies, and it's you can find it all on the internet, but they've got market caps of 300-400 million. So we're a new company with a great opportunity, and so in order for us to grow and be massive and build this epic brand, we need a lot of money to develop that brand and get that out there to all parts of the world. So the only way that we can get that money, being a startup, if we try and wait to sell, we need to be selling, 1 million jars a year to bank this much profit, and then we'll save up. So we've got, 2 million for marketing. That might be 5 years down the track. And in that time, a competitor with deeper pockets and a bigger war chest has just flown in and, and they've gone forth. So in order to get rapid scale and deep penetration, we need to have that funding to be able to, deeply penetrate the market, secure honey and build our plants. So, I've probably gone off track there, Claire, but I think that was
good. The passion is good. And I think, that does lead me it's a really elegant segue to my next question, because as you're saying, like Australian Honey Ventures, especially when I first met you, I believe it was last year, relatively early stage company, but obviously people saw the value in what you were doing. And for those who are tuning in that weren't aware of the last capital raise for Australian Honey Ventures, they've raised over $700,000 from just over 500 people who believed in, I think, the value and the opportunity that this business had and the market gap that you've seen. With that money raised, as you mentioned, you've launched these new brands, you've secured these partnerships overseas, and the company really has gone from strength to strength. We're now looking, 12 to 18 months down the track, and you've alluded to it already. In this capital raise, what is the main purpose of this capital raise, and what are you looking to do with the funds raised?
Yeah, look, the main purpose for us, we've moved into our new warehouse and we need to now start filling out. So it's a shell and we need to start piecing together our processing capabilities. So if you imagine like a dairy farm, a dairy processing facility, you've got your big tanks, your vats, you've got your piping, your pumps. So all of the stuff that happens behind the scenes before it actually comes out the filler head into the jar on the conveyor belt. So we need to establishing that processing capability. And we're using New Zealand technology in our processing facility because we want the best of the best. And at the moment, we've been making do on a very small scale because it's all just been about validating price point, validating demand, getting that traction to then, be able to then say, well, we've got the proof, now we need to do it in a big way. So if we are to provide a consistently high quality product in the quantities that we're looking at over the next few years, we need to invest in far better processing facilities, which has a price tag of about 800 grand. We've also got our head office, which once again is a shell, and it's about fitting that out. So between the two of them, our head office and also our processing and packing facility, we're looking at about $1 million. So we're not a SaaS startup. People go, oh, I think I've seen some comments going, oh, red flag, if honey is selling for that much, why do you need to raise capital? Well, I think my last comments made that very clear. In order to set up a big facility, in order to get that marketing, get that rapid scale, a company like us is going to take a good 18 months, 2 years before we become cash flow neutral. So because we have big costs, big expenditures to be able to propel us to that number one position. So that was the processing facility, because naturally we can't fill these orders without a processing facility. So there's that. Secondly, we have $1 million set aside for marketing. Is ideally in a perfect world what we'd like to have in our kitty for a 12 to 18 month period. And then beyond that is we were looking at $700,000 to secure honey from other beekeepers, so we can share the love. Thanks to Stephen, we've got access to a massive supply. Well, I suppose in the grand scheme of what we need to supply worldwide, it's not massive, but it's a safety net. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to use Stephen's honey if we don't have to. That's there as a security for us. Yeah. We would much rather be out in the community securing that honey and sharing that love so other people can get the benefit of this model and see how it works. So if that last million, so we've got $1 million for processing, $1 million for marketing, and then we've got another $1 million, which is 700 grand for working capital. 700,000 for securing honey and 300 grand working capital. If let's say we don't raise 3 million, which, is like I said, that was, blue sky in a perfect world. If you could have what you want, Jay, what would it be? But if we're looking more around the $1.5-2 million mark, well, that just means that we still need to build our processing plant. It might be a tank or two less. So it'll be slightly smaller in scale. We still have to market, but, we'll have to scale that back as well. But we've got to be careful with that because it's the marketing that is going to get us those additional contract wins. So we're still going to keep that high. The thing that unfortunately has to get cut off is buying honey, because what do? Do you go and secure all of this honey, don't do marketing, and then you've got a shed full of honey because you wanted to share the love, but they're not getting any bonuses because we can't get the contracts because we're not marketing. So unfortunately, we need the plant, we need the marketing, and anything extra beyond that will go towards securing honey and sharing the love out there. So that is why we're pushing so hard. We're asking everybody to share our campaign because we desperately want to be out there sharing their love, and especially with shareholders in AHV who can supply a commercial amount. We want to give back to them. So that's sort of where we need to spend.
And that was going to be my next question, actually. And I appreciate we've actually got 11 questions from the crowd that I definitely want to get to. And my last question for you is that, it's a really exciting opportunity. And we do know that in your last campaign, you did have some sizable checks coming through, which was fantastic in the Australian Honey Ventures crowdfunding round. And that, there's a lot of interest around your business and what it does. You touched on it a little bit, but I'm sure some people in the audience are really interested to know why crowdfunding and why not directly to, one big investor or one VC, and your philosophy around, why you've chosen this path of raising capital.
There's a couple of reasons. The first one for us is we were getting so much interest. Given Stephen's position in the industry, he knows a lot of people, and he was fielding lots of calls and messages from interested beekeepers who were saying, look, we love the tenacious, tenacity behind this company. We love what you're about. We love that you're trying to sock it to the big guns. How can we get involved? We want to invest in this company. And there was actually no way available for us to have them join us and be part of the company. So we were turning them away going, look, I'm sorry, it's really difficult because when you're a PTY Ltd company, and any wholesale investors on here will understand what I'm talking about here. But when you are PTY Ltd, there's rules around how many shareholders you can bring onto your cap table in any 12-month period. I think it's 20. We're able to take 20 shareholders in any 12-month rolling period. And when we're getting 30 or 40 inquiries from beekeepers saying, how do I get involved? Yeah, supply opportunity. If that happens, great. But how do we buy shares in this company? Because we see huge growth. So crowdfunding offered us So crowdfunding, any money raised through crowdfunding is actually exempt from that rule, that 2012 month rule. So we can bring on as many shareholders as we want through crowdfunding, and it doesn't affect that rule. So what happens is if we were to raise 20, if we were to bring on any more than 20 shareholders in a 12-month period, rolling period, then we need to convert to an LTD company. And there's just more work involved with that, and we weren't really ready for it. So this way with crowdfunding allowed beekeepers who could see the benefit in what we're creating to come on and support it and take advantage of that upsiding growth that they believe we're capable of. And also, we're all about giving people a fair go and really stocking it to the big guys. So initially what we were thinking is, well, why only go to somebody, who can write one big check? And, we've got a consumer fronting product. We struggled with Coles. We didn't know whether we were going to be successful with Woolies because that's only just happened. And we did this first crowdfunding raise, 7 months ago. So I suppose hedging our risks really, the other beauty of going crowdfunding is if we could attract, well, let's say after this raise, we're probably going to have a shareholder base of about 1,500 shareholders. That is 1,500 people that can join us in campaigning against the Coles, the Woolies, the IGAs, and all the other independents to have us ranged on shelves, just like the good old thank you story where, they got knocked back by every retailer for whatever reason, and their loyal fan base actually campaigned the supermarkets, and the supermarkets actually said, okay, we need to take another look at this brand because for some reason Australia loves it. So having that big shareholder base was very important for us to develop that brand, develop the momentum, to have an army there ready to say, right, I'm going to click the button and my army, I want you to go forth, and we need to start pressuring these retailers, getting beekeepers in as well. And I'll also be honest, dealing with going the crowdfunding route, it was so easy. It really is the best way to get out there and allow people to be a part of your journey. And especially in honey, because honey is the most adulterated substance in the world, it is a great way to be able to put yourself out there, be raw, be honest, be authentic. And people love an authentic journey that they can be a part of. So it was just very fitting for us. But some companies it's not fitting. But it was just a perfect fit for us. I've even had venture capital call within the last few days and indicating, hey, look, don't do crowdfunding because maybe we could do something offline. I'm like, no, we are continuing with our crowdfunding because growing that massive share base is extremely crucial to our sales strategy. So no, if you want to put money in, great, but we're still doing crowdfunding as well. So yeah.
And did I answer that? You did. No, it was a brilliant answer. And I think just for those that when we wrap at 1:30, if you do have to hop off, and before we hop into the questions, letting you know that these informations around the minimum raise target and maximum raise target, the allocation of shares being released in this crowdfunding round, details about the company, strategy, growth plans, financial statements, everything you need to know to make an assessment about whether this investment is for you will be available in the Australian Honey Ventures offer document at the time of the offer campaign, which is happening in about a week and a bit. So keep an eye on your emails from the Australian Honey Ventures team. And if you have expressed interest in the campaign, you won't miss out. And if you haven't yet, please hop onto the Australian Honey Ventures profile page on Birchal and make sure you do, so you are the first to know when there are any updates from the Australian Honey Ventures team, and most importantly, when this campaign goes live. But that is a really great overview from you, Jay, about why you want to do crowdfunding. I think, answers that question really, really well. Going to the questions from the crowd now. Cool. And Mark and Jay, I will, sort of throw it to you to then decide between the two of you who will answer the questions. If you have felt that your question was answered during our conversation that we've had up to now, do me a huge favor and hop into the Q&A and remove your question, because I'm just going to go through the questions blow by blow, just in the order they came in, and ask them to the AHV team. If we run out of time to get to your question, I've got them all saved. I will send that list to Jay, get her to write an email answer to some of those questions, or if you'd like a little bit more information, and get her to send her answer back to you all if you'd like. So hopping into the questions now, if anyone is confused or needs anything like that. First question, have you any association or communication with Save the Bees?
I'll answer that one, Mark, because you'll have no idea about that. Okay, Save the Bees is Simon Mulvaney, and Simon Mulvaney would have been probably the second person I spoke to with my idea around starting my business 3.5 years ago. And Simon Mulvaney was the first contact, and that was back in the day when it was just going to be a platform, like an eBay for honey. So things have significantly pivoted from that point. And I remember talking to Simon saying, let's work together, let's do something. And he told me back, this was a while ago, I don't know where he's at now, but he was working with some group that was doing something maybe a little bit similar, so couldn't really get involved at that time. And then things, like I suppose it didn't, things haven't really progressed from that point. But I just felt that was like it's something that could have been a good fit for AHV. But yes, Simon, and I've actually written Simon a message on Facebook and said, hey, it's Jay from Honey Sales, because AHV used to be called Honey Sales before we then, pivoted and changed. So I said, it's Jay from Honey Sales. And remember, we did speak a few years ago. So, it probably overdue for a conversation and see if there's any synergies there for sure. Yeah, he was one of the first people I ever reached out to.
And can you tell us a bit more about your corporate social responsibility goals with Indigenous partnerships and bee sustainability? And then we might hop into some questions back looking at, the Middle Eastern activity as well.
Yeah, so our sustainability, we're still very premature in that space. So sustainability is a very broad term. And we could do nothing with Indigenous people, and we could do nothing with our packaging and still be sustainable based on the fact that we're an impact company where we are having a social impact by giving more back to beekeepers. So our model in itself, that profit sharing model, is sustainable. But we've gone one further. So our product packaging, we need to lift ourselves in the Be Well scene. But like I said, that's on pause at the moment because the other brand's doing so good. But our aim is to be a leader in the honey industry in how we are sourcing our packaging. So we are using recycled PET. So this plastic that our jars are in have been a bottle once before. So we are using our PET for the clear part of the jar. The lid is made from PP, which is virgin PP, because recycled PP, there's no solution out there to give us, because the lid is harder plastic. So where there is a solution, we are the ones going after it in a big way. So we believe in recycled packaging and all of our FSC certification for our papers and our cardboards and so on, making sure that we are sourcing from accredited suppliers. Even the inks that we use on our jars on the recycled plastic, they're eco-friendly. So they're not seeping into the plastic. So when the plastic becomes recycled, then we've got the highest possible percentage of quality and recoverability in that plastic. Because if your plastic is damaged that much, you might get a reduced value. So rather than saying you've got 100% value, like replacement value, or they'll say, look, you've used inks that have seeped into the plastic and made it quite toxic. So your the value of your recyclability value has been reduced by 70%. So this jar is only 30% of it could actually be used again in the future. So making sure that our inks are eco-friendly and all of that. So we've got that side of it. And then we've also got the Indigenous side. So it's not just a lip service for us. I hate companies that do that kind of stuff. As I mentioned earlier, I am from the bush, and I spent a lot of time in Aboriginal communities. And we live next door to the Red Ochre band, actually. So lots of bands, lots of music nights. And to me, growing up in those regional communities, I saw a lot of marginalisation. But look, I come from a low place. I haven't had fancy education. I come from the school of hard knocks. And I had brilliant ideas. I've had brilliant ideas my whole life, but so do these people. And so growing up in those communities, when I actually see that marginalisation and think they're no different to me, they've had the same upbringing as me, they have some wonderful ideas, but they don't have the access to business development opportunities and so on. So on our board, it was very important for me to make sure that we had Indigenous decision-making capabilities right at the top of our company. And I'm super proud because I don't know of one state body or even the peak body for this Australian honey industry that has a Indigenous member at the decision-making end on their boards. So look, that might be beginning to change now, but I have a lady by the name of Yana Cedar, who is a Nyalbali woman from Marble Bar, and she is a director, one of 4 directors of our company. And she brings with her a wealth of knowledge around native title, also Indigenous rights, empowering Indigenous women, and she's also on the United Nations. So, people have looked at this and gone, wow, what a smart move, Jay. And I said, bloody oath, it's a smart move. And every single time we move our chess piece in this company, it's strategy. So we know that there is a lot of issues happening and about to happen where native claim comes up and Indigenous people say we're staking native claim over this area, which houses, hundreds of bee sites. So then there's that push and pull between, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, because non-Indigenous don't want to lose access to these, these bee sites, but Indigenous want their sites back. So who is the company that's positioned themselves to be that liaison in the industry and provide, that service? So we, further to that, we are also the largest investor in Marlu Innovations, which is a majority Aboriginal-owned skincare company that blends honey with Indigenous bush medicines to eradicate acne, and also going down the line of artificial intelligence to detect acne breakouts. So, so we've got a lot there, but people also need to be realistic that it's great to hear all of this stuff and things that we're committed to and trying to do, but nothing happens overnight. So it's a long battle ahead, but I am certainly very confident that we are in every realm able to demonstrate we are doing more than any other Australian, probably worldwide, honey company to support Indigenous participation in this industry. So I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and I think it's, as you say, it's not an overnight thing. I think it is fantastic that the foundation's being laid to like you do your beekeepers, to make sure that people can have the access to share in the benefits and the profits of what the company is trying to do. I am really keen to actually circle back on, Australian Honey Ventures' presence in eastern states of Australia. And I'm also keen to circle back on some of your trademarks as well, because you've spoken a lot about, that fantastic design and how you get your brand overseas. Before I do want to hop over to Mark and ask a question that's come through.
Yeah, go for it.
On some of the countries in the Middle East. So 2 questions have come from the same person, so I might sort of part A, part B. The question is, Mark, other than the Gulf countries in MENA, are there plans to export to Egypt, which is the biggest consumer population in that region? And have they removed their honey import restrictions, which I didn't realize that they had?
Okay, thank you so much for that. The reason why we started with the GCC region, because it's mainly the hub of Middle East, and they have the purchasing power, considering that the product is on the high end in terms of pricing. In Egypt, there are 100 million in the populations. Definitely going to be our next step once we hopefully close so strategically, as I mentioned in the beginning, we want to make the products available in the GCC, and then we will move up and left to Egypt, and then Morocco, Algeria, and so on, Tunisia. And then in the top goes to Iraq, Jordan, and the other countries. So I'm not sure if there is any restrictions yet or not, to be honest. I need to investigate that and get the answer for this one. But overall, definitely Egypt, North Africa is on the radar once we close the deals with the GCC ones.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm just hopping through some questions to make sure that I am covering everyone's main question. Okay. My next question is to make sure that I'm getting the right thing, and maybe you can both share this answer for me. Australia is looking to undertake undertaking a free trade agreement with the UK and the EU. And are there plans to export real good honey to these markets? And the same question applies to the North American market, Indian and Southeast Asian markets as well. yeah, where is that sort of expansion going from there? And with some of those agreements coming into place, is that part of the roadmap for Australian honey ventures?
Yeah, absolutely. So our goal is to become the #1 honey company in the world, positioned as the most luxurious premium brand as well. But we also need to be realistic in where the company is at in terms of cash flow. So things are very tight for the company. Now, I'm not going to lie. We've had to, people may look at by the time we pay fees and bits and pieces from our last capital raise, we've got a little bit over 700 grand. And somehow we need to bed down our celebrities. We need to commercialize whole new custom jars. We need to buy, I think we've spent about 150 grand just on inventory to come over. So we've been able to do what we've done on the smell of an oily rag, despite the fact people probably not understanding that, how much money goes into this. But we need to be very careful that we need to get some rungs on the board, and we need to be successful in a big way in one place. Because if we then try and now I'm going to, if I went to a VC and I had a meeting, I was at Minderoo with Twiggy Forrester's group, a couple of months ago. And if I had gone in there and said, my plans that we're in the Middle East, and within the next 12 months, I'm going to be in the UK, I'm going to be in India, and I'm also going to be in Canada, they're just going to laugh at me and say, that's just a ridiculous pile of crap, because nobody can expand that rapidly in a good way. So for us to achieve that expansion, we need money to market. So we could have the best product in the world, but if no one knows about it, then you're not going to get a sale. So we need to make sure that so our plan is to do the Middle East right, get that traction, get those sales coming in. And, with $1 million marketing budget, that is where we start to look at, okay, so you've got your actual building assets, which is, creating the videos, creating all of, the ads, but then the costly part is the advertising. So now we're going to pump that ad set out to the Middle East. We're going to pump that out to Europe. We're going to pump it out to America. That is where the huge money is. It's like saying, I've bought the car, but now I need 10,000 litres of petrol to get me all around the world. So we are hamstrung by how much we raise and how quickly our turnover is, because we can't get to people's breakfast tables in Europe without letting them know we exist first. So it all comes back to marketing and advertising. So the more money we raise and the more money we make through more sales, that gives us the money to tap into those markets. But absolutely, yes, especially the EU. I know Capilano released a statement to say that they were there, because but anyone can do it because it's bloody easy. And when you're a big company like that, I wouldn't expect anything less. So we will be there hot on their tail and everyone else's tail very soon.
I do have one more question that's fantastic to know. And I think that gives a really good insight into a little bit the situation globally and how you plan to expand. I'm very aware it is 1:30 and we were supposed to wrap up. I've got one more question for Mark. And then if we'd like to hang around for 5 or 10 minutes to answer a few more questions, we totally can. Otherwise, as I said, I will save all these questions and send them through to the Australian Honey Ventures team and make sure the answers get circulated to everyone that attended today. Mark, a bit of a curveball question for you before we all go. In expanding into the Middle East, are there any risks that you see with it, or what are the major risks to be aware of with getting honey into these countries?
Risk? Oh, okay. No, I don't think there is any risk into exporting to Middle East as the category. Honey is a big thing in the Middle Eastern culture. As I mentioned, it's mentioned in Quran. It's a big thing for like many years to back. So what I think Jay and the guys are doing is great in the terms of marketing, because you wanna go into the market and say we are better than Manuka, and we are something like medicinal, and you can use us for this and that. Now the product is going to be available in most of the pharmacies, and some of the retailers online and so on. So the campaigns that we will be running through our distributors, it's going to be on in store and offline, which is mainly going to be online and, sometimes radio, sometimes billboards and so on. I don't think there is any risk in exporting to Middle East at any stage. If the question was relating to the political side of things, mainly most of the countries currently are in very stable position for that sake, and it's not going to be any issues, I think, for any time, in the next 20 years, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that and for answering that. It's really exciting to hear, because it's really an area of the world that I don't know much about. We are on an island down here in Australia, and it's fantastic to hear that there is so much interest and the use cases for honey and different styles of honey over there as well. So very, very exciting. What I actually might do, I know I just said something 30 seconds ago, but I'm actually going to renege on what I said, and maybe think that is actually a really good place to sort of wrap up today's session. I'm very aware that we have some questions that have come through about trademarks, about whether AHV will pivot back to China, about whether the business is cash flow positive, some questions upon investor return.
No, can I just quickly jump in? We're not cash flow positive. And as I said at the start, we probably won't be cash flow positive for a good 18 months because our costs are huge. And once we get that, we're making a lot of profit from the sale of one jar, but that profit, until we sell a lot more jars, is not going to sustain the cost of running a big honey packing facility. So I don't know of many startups out there that are not going to be cash flow positive, that are cash flow positive straight away. So sorry, Claire, I just wanted to jump in on that. And anyone wants to ring me and give me a call, I pick up the phone. 0478 637 630 is my number, and no problem. So it's better coming from me than in an email, that one. So there you go. Sorry, Claire.
No, absolutely fine. And look, all I was going to say is, everyone, I have saved your questions. I'm going to email them through to Jay. And when she may decide to respond to a few of them by message, but as she mentioned, she is available, and I know in this campaign, very excited to talk to you if you have more questions for her. So don't think that we have missed your question. We can't wait to answer it, and we'll get those answers to you very, very soon. Just to wrap up today, it's a really exciting campaign, and we will be looking to launch the offer campaign about a week and a half, so keep an eye on your emails, so you know exactly the dates it's going to launch, exactly the time it's going to launch as well, and all the information you need to know if you haven't yet invested through Birchal, what you'll need, especially if you're planning to invest more than 10,000 Australian dollars in this campaign, minimum parcel size, all that kind of information will be available when the offer goes live. So if you have a question, reach out to Birchal on the equity crowdfunding process. If you have a question for Australian Honey Ventures and their plans for expansion, I know Jay will be sharing her email in our follow-up. We've got all your addresses. It was wonderful to have you all on today. Really excellent questions coming through, and a really, really fascinating discussion with both of you about an area that I've never heard about before, and just think
you and many others, Claire.
It's amazing. So, for both of you, thank you so much. If you'd like to, some final comments, and then I might wrap up today's session.
Yeah, look, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'm not sure how many people we had on, but we have been overwhelmed by interest in this webinar. And I really am sorry if I don't even know what these questions are that Claire can't get to because I can't see them, but I promise you I'll get back to everything. Thanking everyone for their support. And if you're sitting on the fence, you still don't know whether you want to invest or not, do yourself a favor, jump on, do your own due diligence, and understand the rise of the Manuka industry. Also understand the sizable opportunity that exists here at the moment in Western Australia, but soon to be expansion to the eastern states, and then make your decision. But I'd love to have you all on board, be part of this great Australian story where, that underdog comes along and shows these big boys there is a new way to do business and a more sustainable and fairer way. So I hope you join us on this journey.
Well, I would say also from my side, thank you so much, everyone. I was always driven by Jay's passion about this business, and that was mainly the reason why I managed to get a very quick convergence about not just for the brand being fantastic. I think in 3 to 5 years we will meet again, and you will be surprised of what we have achieved in this business in too many levels. So thank you so much, everyone, and very glad to be part of meeting today.
Thanks so much. Look, we've had almost 1,000 expressions of interest come through this campaign already in just 2 weeks, and we had just over 100 people sign up to attend today's webinar. So obviously a really hot space, a really exciting business that everyone is really keen to learn a little bit more about. So we've got your addresses. Thank you so much for joining us today, and you keep an eye on your inbox in the next few days, and we'll get those answers back to you. But thanks everyone so much for joining us. It was great.
See you. Bye.
Great week.